Greetings, citizens, and thanks for tuning in to Nindie Nation episode 88. I'm Jeff, and this is your one-stop weekly shop for everything independently developed for the Nintendo Switch. If it's your first time here, welcome! Each week we take a look at every new indie game releasing on the Switch, and this week we're covering one extra day so we can finish up the month of October alongside Halloween. After the new releases, we head over to the eShop to pick the best deals of the week, and we do it all so that you can find just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons synced. Nindie Nation posts on Tuesdays to podcast feeds and on our YouTube channel, and we're brought to you in part by our friends at the Nintendo Village. We have weekly streams every Thursday night at 10 p.m. called Nindies at Night, and don't forget about the Nindie Nation Friday afternoon special where we dig up a couple of great deals to carry you through the weekend. Don't be a stranger, chat with us in the comments, and don't worry, I'll keep reminding you. And you can always yell at me on Twitter at Nindie Nation, but that's more than enough self-promotion because we've got 50 games to discuss today. Now, not only do we cover all of the games releasing in the week ahead, but because the eShop is such a busy place, we also have to look at the titles that snuck out since we last checked out the new releases. This week is a doozy too, so strap in, citizens, because we're kicking off episode 88 by taking a look at the 10 neglected Nindies released since episode 87. And what better way to kick off the week than with Pumpkin Jack, a decidedly Halloween-y game by Head Up Games for $23.99. From the way it looks and everything I can find about it, Pumpkin Jack would be best described as a PS2-era 3D action platformer. It looks like the slew of budget mascots we saw in the wake of Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, and all of those games, and this one looks pretty fun. Wait, is this right? Torchlight 3 released last week without so much as a whisper? The Torchlight series, developed by Ectra Games and published by Perfect World, is a lighthearted take on the Diablo series, and I really liked the first and then got a bit burnt out by the second, and the third one has a weird history where they kinda shifted gears on the overall game style over halfway into development. This one adds some pretty cool new features like support for up to 40 players online, but it's getting reviews that are tepid at best. If you're interested, I would say throw Torchlight 3 on your wish list for now, because at $40, you'll want to make sure that they've patched out the problems already there before you dive in. A Nindy newcomer team of 4 have partnered with Devolver Digital to bring Disc Room to the Switch this week, and it's a top-down style game where you run around the room trying to avoid spinning saw blades of death and other obstacles. I'm not sure this one is worth $15, but it could be a lot of fun when it goes on sale. If Found is a narrative adventure about finding the diary of a little girl who lived in Western Ireland in 1993. The visual style looks like a little girl's diary and carries that primitive artistic style throughout its story. It's developed by Dreamfeel and launched last week for $12.99. Alright, time for your rock block of diesel, because Astragon released Construction Simulator 3 for $19.99, and SimFabric released both Farm Mechanics Simulator and Truck Mechanics Simulator for $29.49 each. I could spend the next couple minutes detailing what these games are, but I think I'm just gonna move on to this week's Nindie no-nos, which are the titles released that I can't imagine anyone would buy, at least at their current prices. Zombie Hill Race takes that mobile game where you drive left to right and drive up and down hills, and they throw zombies in it. It's $6 and developed by Cool Small Games. The team behind Lord of the Click claims that their tower defense title is, quote,
"The game for those who outgrew meaningless shooters and tiresome endless RPGs."
They claim the whole game is about training your thumbs for combat, but they didn't update the art from the mobile version, which features a big ol' index finger. It comes by way of Huge Pixel and Victory Road for $4.99. And the final neglected Nindy for the week is a frog game. Really. It's called a frog game. It's 99 cents. You're a frog and you tap on flies to eat them? What do we think, citizens? Is this the next Untitled Goose Game? Yeah, I thought so too. So Pumpkin Jack looks like good throwback fun, and Disc Room could be a good time if it wasn't $15, but I'm not seeing too much for me this week, so maybe those Nindies are truly best left neglected. But that's okay, because we've got yet another huge week of new releases, including some gems for all the right and wrong reasons. With 29 new Nindies hitting the eShop next week, here are your new releases for October 24th through the 31st. As usual, we get one game on Monday, and this week, on October 26th, it is Keeble Games' Gnome More War for $2.39. Get it? Gnome More War? It's some kind of mix between tower defense and a 2D real-time strategy? It doesn't look very good. Frankly, I think we could do just fine with no more mobile ports. On October 27th, The Bluecoats North and South is a strategy game based on the Civil War that is a Switch port of a mobile port of an Xbox 360 game that was a remake of the original, which released in 1990. It actually looks kind of fun. Reminds me of the hidden Sega Genesis gem General Chaos, but you can tell how many platforms it's been on by how ambiguous the interface is. And $30 is just way too much. Humble Bundle continues to publish excellent, unique titles, and this week is no different. In Carto, you play as a little girl who is separated in the wilderness from her grandma. Lucky for her, she's a cartographer and can use her special ability to build the world around her. Think of it like a 2D Zelda game, where at any time you can zoom out, pick up tiles on the map, and move them around. Can't say I've seen anything like that before, and the storybook artwork is really well done. Cute story, great soundtrack, and a 5 to 7 hour story makes Carto a great pickup for $17.99. Ha! I've been waiting for you. Developed by Black Sheep Games and published by Microids is the new entry in the My Universe series we've all been waiting for. My Universe Fashion Boutique. Now, I really do want to dump all over the simplistic management sim built for kids that is flush with shallow minigames, but I gotta admit, this one has much better production than that baby game we covered a while back, and if there's any type of game that embodies shovelware, it's the fashion and baby simulators, but this one actually doesn't look too bad. And believe me, I've seen plenty of these games on my kids' Kindles. It's $30 and definitely only for kids, and as much as I want to dunk all over it, I gotta be fair and say that it seems to accomplish what it sets out to do. At such an early point in this week's new releases, it pleases me to see Dungreed by Team Hooray! And Nicalis, because this $15 side-scrolling dungeon crawler includes nice pixel art, action that looks like a bunch of fun, plenty of weapons to try out, as well as procedurally generated dungeons, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements. Adding this one to the wish list for sure. Last week I mentioned that we've got the revitalization of a couple classic titles, and just 2 weeks ago we saw the 3D Oddworld games go on sale. But this week, we get the best entry in the series with Oddworld Abe's Odyssey New N Tasty. If you've never played this game, it's the first entry in the series developed by Lorne Lanning and his team at Oddworld Inhabitants. Originally released for the PlayStation, Oddworld is a smart and funny 2D adventure game where the puzzle solving includes helping your friends escape from a factory before they're turned into food, and having to save your own hide from room to room as well. These games are great, and the remakes look spectacular. If that wasn't enough, New N Tasty is regularly $30, but launches with an introductory discount for only $19.99. If you've never played any of these games but appreciate a side-scrolling adventure with plenty of puzzle elements, definitely consider Oddworld Abe's Odyssey New N Tasty. And if you want an abysmal cooking-themed Mario Party ripoff that doesn't work in handheld mode, then by all means, throw $25 at Just for Games and Break First's Instant Chef Party. I think Just for Games is in it just for a quick buck.
Get over here!
And the only thing I want to break first is the steady stream of shovelware on the Switch.
He's already dead. shit!
Cobra Kai is a fan-made sequel of sorts to the Karate Kid movies. It was so beloved that it was picked up by Netflix and recently released its second season, I think? It's a great show. That means there has to be a game too, right? Well, Flux, a team I've never heard of, and Game Mill, a publishing name that just screams quality, have released said tie-in game. Cobra Kai The Karate Kid Saga Continues is some kind of cross between a beat-em-up and a fighting game. It does have an original story that is told from two perspectives, and it's got an interesting RPG-like progression system, but otherwise, this game does not look very good, especially for $34. On Wednesday, October 28th, we've got 3 new Nindies, and all 3 look pretty solid. First up is Oceanhorn 2: Knights of the Lost Realm. The original Oceanhorn was the closest thing you could get to a classic Zelda with modern production, and Oceanhorn 2 is kind of a similar take to Breath of the Wild, but it does just enough to stand out on its own. In a beautiful, open world, you'll do just about everything you can imagine in an open 3D world. Conquer dungeons, explore on foot, by horse, by flight, and engage in all sorts of combat with swords, guns, and everything else in between. Unfortunately, the initial reviews from its Apple Arcade release last year were overall just okay, but I'm really hoping the game finds a bigger audience on the Switch. Let's wait for the reviews though, because Oceanhorn 2, developed by Cornfox and Bros, could be a nice addition to your Switch, but at $27, we probably need to see how well this port is handled. How about some more Halloween-themed indies? If you're looking for something a bit more lighthearted, Gibbous, a Cthulhu adventure could be the ticket. It's a narrative point-and-click adventure with gorgeous artwork that is inspired by Lovecraftian stylings, but looks like something Don Bluth would have made in the 90s. It's remarkable how good the animation looks. It's also a comedy set in Transylvania that centers around 3 protagonists, one of which is a wisecracking cat. Yeah, Gibbous could be a little hidden gem, and when it released last year on Steam, it garnered very positive reviews. It's developed by Stuck in Attic and hits the eShop for $19.99. The final release this week before the big Thursday drop is a fun little vertically scrolling shoot-'em-up that could be fun, but I suspect it has one major flaw. See, Star 99's whole shtick is that it's a shoot-'em-up battle royale for up to 100 players at a time, and I just don't see this game having much of an active community for very long. It does include cross-platform play, which should help, and the gameplay as a whole looks good. I almost wish this game was included in Nintendo Switch Online or something, because I'd love to recommend Star 99, but at $10, it seems risky to pick up just because of its dependency on an active online community. This week's Big Thursday drop is more of a slightly larger than most days drop with 8 new releases. Hard to believe 8 new games doesn't count as a massive day anymore. But anyways, we start with Yuppie Psycho Executive Edition. Wait, what? Wow, this is a weird one. Developed by another indie studio and published by Baroque Decay. Ooh, that's a fancy name. This is a horror adventure for the most part, and I get a lot of Persona vibes for you JRPG fans out there. You've got a crazy, otherworldly mega corporation called Sintra Corp, and you play as Brian Pasternak, a young man in his first day on the job where he has to survive horrors? It's really weird, and any further explanation is about as pointless as saying,
Persona 4 is a game where you attend high school, get a job, and date people, but then you jump into a TV and battle demons in a parallel world.
I'll say this is probably a good pick for fans of horror, games driven by Japanese culture, and adventure games that feature a retro art style. And Yuppie Psycho Executive Edition is $14.99. Next up, Mindscape was like,
Hey, we got a load of miscellaneous puzzle games. Maybe we should throw them all in one big collection.
And out came Super Puzzle Pack. It's got a shitload of jigsaw puzzles, a shitload of Match 3 games, a one-on-one 2048 puzzle game, and some kind of story about the fuzzy family that I'm sure is just top-tier poetry. It's all fairly cheap looking, but frankly, there's enough here that if it was a buck or two, I'd probably recommend it as a nice rainy day game. Unfortunately, it's a wish lister at best because Super Puzzle Pack will cost you $30. Also, Jorge Diedma Azwar is capitalizing on the spooky season by releasing a new jigsaw puzzle game called #Halloween Super Puzzles Dream, and yeah, same thing here. If it wasn't $6, I'd say maybe pick it up for some Halloweeny fun. Maybe it'll be like Halloween candy and you can buy it next week for 40 cents. Hold on to it for a year, and then bite into it to feel your teeth crack against the year-old chocolate, and decide to leave it for all the neighborhood kids that drive you crazy, which I've never done. You know what we haven't had in a couple of weeks? Something that would describe itself as
Doki Doki Harlem Story Love Simulation for Women Otogi to send for women who like good-looking guys.
punctuation is fun. The description for Diamond Girl An Earnest Education in Love states,
Proper ladies can do whatever they want. You are a so-called love-allergic girl who spends her time at home in a tracksuit.
Excuse me, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Diamond Girl is such a game. This is a love story game in which relationships form between the love-allergic heroine who wears tracksuits around and the handsome men.
What do they got against tracksuits? It's developed by Opera House and it doesn't have a price? Alright. Wallachia? Or maybe it's Wallachia? That sounds like something Beavis would say.
Yeah.
Wallachia, Reign of Dracula is published by No Gravity Games, apparently by a team that was like,
I want to build Castlevania Symphony of the Night,
but then their publisher was like,
but we only have $5.
because it is a through and through Castlevania ripoff developed on a shoestring budget. It looks kind of fun, but it doesn't look very good, if that makes sense. I might try this one when it goes on sale for under $5, but even launching at $12, go check out this week's deals if you want some cheap Metroidvanias. How's that for some podcast foreshadowing? Deco, the publisher that I can never make up my mind about, is back this week with D Yaba Tanian for $13.99, and this game is f***ed up. It's an 8-bit horror game where you solve puzzles that will free girls trapped inside of a mansion, but if you mess up, they could die horrific pixelated deaths, kinda like the Saw movies. This could be an interesting Halloween game, and it looks to be a re-release that includes both the original game and upgraded ports of Yabatanian, but yeah, I'm probably not gonna try this one out for you. Oh man, I love me a good pun, and this week we've got Barbarian. But the thing is, it's not just barbarian, it's barbarian. Like a bear. So the game wait. So the game Barbarian is a fast-paced, isometric hack-and-slash developed and published by Kimono Factor, a Nindy newcomer. It looks like a good one, very simple, almost like Serious Sam, but a hack-and-slash, and you're a bear with huge bosses, waves of enemies, just fight your way through them all and collect upgrades to get to the next level. Actually, I like what it's doing here. And at $11.99, I might have to pick it up just to see that hilariously punny name. Because there's a bear, and you're a barbarian, and just... oh man, bear, barbarian, get it? And rounding out the week's moderately big Thursday drop is Crimson Clover World Explosion, which is the port of a classic Japanese top-down bullet hell shmup, complete with a bunch of new modes and options. Developed by Yatsubane and published by Degaka, there's a lot more here than just an arcade port, and it appears to be a solid package. But even with the included dynamic difficulty levels and options for beginners, Crimson Clover is a pretty hardcore shmup. If you're really into these games, there's a lot to like in this $20 package, but if not, it's probably better to dip your toes in elsewhere. Surprisingly, the releases for Friday top the Thursday drop this week, with 10 titles rounding out your Halloween week. First up is Umihara Kawasi Bazooka, published by NN Games and developed by Success! This is a single-screen multiplayer Smash Brothers-like that includes multiplayer both online and off. I think it's based on an anime because of how many times they reference the 22 iconic characters I've never heard of. If Umahara Kawase Bazooka is based on your favorite anime or manga, maybe there's something here for you. But if not, a $30 price tag just doesn't align with what otherwise looks like a pretty boring version of this type of game. If you're a fan of the Angry Video Game Nerd, one of the longest-running video game shows on YouTube, and you like challenging retro platformers, you should probably pick up Angry Video Game Nerd 1 and 2 Deluxe when it launches on the 30th for $14.99. Not only is it an updated collection of these two games, but Screenwave Media actually went back and rebuilt the entire first game from inside the sequel's engine, adjusting the levels to keep things tough but fair. If you're not a fan of AVGN, most of what sets this game apart from other similar titles will probably be lost on you. The game is good, however, and a solid value for the price, so maybe if you aren't a fan, you could still appreciate it. But it's definitely loaded with a lot of funny fan service. I think the bigger question is, if you're not watching Angry Video Game Nerd, why not? Go do that after you finish this episode, of course. And click like, and subscribe if you haven't, and share Nindie Nation with some of your gaming friends. Then you can go check out AVGN. Case 2 Animatronics Survival is, as far as I can tell, Five Nights at Freddy's without the branding. You're in an amusement park and you run from scary possessed animatronics and can sit in a room and monitor the park from various video feeds. It's developed by Walnut, published by Valnat, and at $30, probably just go play Five Nights at Freddy's if that's what you're looking for. Jeez, I feel like they release a new game every couple of months, including this week with the release of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, a slightly different take on the Five Nights formula by Click Team, where you have much more management options available as you set up your pizzeria with various upgrades and traps to survive through the night. If you do, you take your earnings and reinvest it to survive yet another night, and so on. If you want to live through the freaky animatronic animals chasing after you, it'll set you back a much more reasonable $8. You know, I thought we were missing something this week, but I figured it out as Hook Games got ahead of the curve, deciding to publish this week's Minesweeper-based puzzle game just in time to skip the neglected Nindies. Slitherloop is $5, and
it's definitely a no for me, dog.
Invert Mouse and Sakai Games publish a side-scrolling survival horror adventure when Clea releases for $14.99, and its freaky gothic anime art style is going to give me nightmares. This is always going to be a tough week for a baby like me having to cover a bunch of video games. Thankfully, the team at Invert Mouse promised that there are no jump scares in this interesting Escape from the Haunted Mansion story, but even so, man, this art style is spooky AF. Haunted Poppy's Nightmare is a 3D adventure about a girl named Poppy who is trick-or-treating on her first Halloween. The pictures and description provide no further information on exactly what you do in this game. I just see a little girl dressed as a witch walking around a neighborhood and clicking on signs. So if that sounds like fun, Polygon Art will be very happy to take your $5. Mad Rat Dead is one of the more unique releases I've seen from NIS America, and that's saying something because their games are always out there. As a reincarnated rat who gets one last chance at living out his last day on Earth, you do battle in a side-scrolling rhythm game where your ability to pump your heart to the beat of the music is your weapon of choice. You with me? The art style is super polished, and it looks like fun, with the formula being similar to the action and movement from Crypt of the Necrodancer, but as a side-scrolling action game. As you know, with rhythm games, a lot of it depends on how much you like the music, and Mad Rat Dead seems to be loaded with upbeat chiptune music, and for the most part, everything here seems solid. It's a shame then that the game releases for $40 though. NIS America usually produces quality titles, but they're always so expensive, and especially with Crypt of the Necrodancer on sale this week for $4, it's hard not to say try that one first. I am interested in seeing how it reviews though. Radaleka's release this week comes from their massive trove of visual novels, as Ebi Himi's Language of Love makes its way to the Switch. You're a college student who moves to Tokyo and is destined to a life of isolation because you're so much older than the college kids. Until you meet a mom and focus your entire existence on taking her down to Funky Town.
This is cool.
This anime MILF simulator will set you back $12. And last but certainly not least for the week is Lucid Dream Studios' beautiful 2D action adventure Legends of Eternal, which releases for $19.99. As a young boy who returns home to find his town in ruins, you'll go on a fantasy-themed quest to, I don't know, probably save the world. The combat features a bunch of variety and weapon types, and has a mix of more open-ended worlds, as well as linear dungeons with multiple difficulty options and a crafting system that will encourage replaying your favorite sections. Legends of Eternal is the first game by Lucid Dream Studio, and it looks like a great first impression. That's a lot of spooky games this week, so if that's what you're looking for, I think you've got plenty to pick from. Otherwise, Oddworld is fantastic and highly recommended, and I like what I'm seeing from Carto, Dungreed, and Legend of Eternal, but what about you? Sound off in the YouTube comments or let me know what you're picking up on Twitter at Nindie Nation. We've got some of your favorite spooky games to check out, but before then, we've got some great deals to keep your Joy-Cons synced. Even though the eShop is a little less busy than usual, there's 309 games currently on sale. There's a few excellent titles, including quite a few that we've never talked about. So without further ado, here are Nindie Nation's picks for the 10 best deals active through at least October 31st. Okay, this first suggestion is part of a bundle. There's 5 games out, and any 4 of them added up is about $10. And I think just throwing $10 at any 4 of the next 5 games would give you a great, well-rounded bundle of games to play over the next month or so. Let's say it's the Nindie Nation Choose Your Own $10 pre-Black Friday bundle. Good work, Jeff. Just rolls right off the tongue there. First up is Bloodroots, the violent, gory, hilarious, and amazing top-down action game. It's like Ape Out or Hotline Miami, where you clear screens of enemies any way you want, but with a very low margin for error, and Bloodroots is my favorite of the bunch. It's not too hard, so don't shy away if you think difficulty is going to be a detractor, but do know that it is on the tougher side. Bloodroots is usually $20 and rarely goes on sale, but right now, there's a whopping 90% discount and Bloodroots is only $1.99. Around the beginning of the year, East Asia Soft started going in hard on the eShop, releasing games almost weekly. One of the first games that made me sit up and take note was Null Drifter, a simple twin-stick space shooter with a 1-bit art style that has tight gameplay, an AI-generated soundtrack, and effective graphics filters that really change up the presentation. Null Drifter is 50% off this week for only $2.49, and I guess you could say it's like Asteroids, but with procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and very light RPG elements. Third on this roll your own bundle is an interesting example of how to make a definitive edition of your game. In 2017, Battle Princess Madeline released as a 16-bit homage to Ghosts and Goblins, complete with presentation and difficulty in tow. It was a really good game, but it was a little rough around the edges, and the unique structure of the game made progression a little too oblique at times. About a year and a half later, using funds from the initial title's sales, Casual Bit Games created Battle Princess Madeline Royal Edition from the ground up. The structure is fixed now, and it plays a bit more like a level-based Metroidvania game a la the Shantae series, and the whole game otherwise got a bit of a facelift across the board to feel more like a modernized 32-bit game. Battle Princess Madeline Royal Edition is a fantastic side-scrolling adventure that should definitely be on more Switches. And with a 75% discount this week, you can add it to yours for just $3.74. So there's 3 of the 5 games, and I suggest picking up all 3 of them. The last two are the games I think people will be split on, so of these next two, I'd say pick your poison based on your preference. Option A is a game that I covered in Friday's afternoon special. Super Mash lets you mash two retro-styled games together to create a new one, and in that way, it's basically Mario Maker for retro games, but the maker part of it is nothing more than picking from a couple of genre options before each retro homage is made. If you consider yourself a fan of pretty much any type of retro game, and you think you'd like a quirky story about used game store employees, pick this up and share your favorite games that you made with me on Twitter at Nindie Nation so I can compile some of our group's favorites and share them back out. Super Mash is usually $20, and right now it is also at an insanely high 90% discount for only $1.99. Option B is for those of you who said,
I just don't like not knowing exactly what I'm getting into.
Because Jenny LeClue Detective-oo is a classic-styled point-and-click adventure that sits right alongside the best the genre has to offer. The story features Saturday morning cartoon visuals and a story about a young detective who is determined to prove herself. This charming adventure is 88% off this week and brings with it over a dozen hours of voice-acted, lighthearted story for $2.99. Do you like the idea of bundles like this? Basically, you can get any 4 of these games and usually spend over $50, but right now, any combination of 4 nets out to about $10. Let me know what you think. There's a couple others worth mentioning too. Pato Box is essentially a modernized black and white Punch-Out where you play as a boxing duck. It adds a ton of interesting mechanics like mini-games and a hub world to explore, and the cast of characters is excellent. Pato Box is currently 70% off for $4.49. Mechstermination Force is the odd man out in Bertel Horberg's mix of releases that include Gunman Clive and Super Punch Patrol. This title, however, has a colorful anime style and is all about climbing up gigantic mechs and taking them down. Almost like a retro-inspired version of Shadow of the Colossus, and it's really good. At 80% off, Mechstermination Force provides an easy way for you to spend $2.39. Rounding out the week, we've got a quick list of 4 Halloween or spooky-themed titles, starting with Blair Witch, half off for $14.99. Yes, it is an expensive indie for sure, but this first-person game directly tied to the movie is perfect for a short but high-quality spooky game, and is a must for any fans of the movie. If anyone ever asks me for a pinball recommendation, I only turn to Demon's Tilt, which was developed with the team who created the fabled Aliens Crush and Devil's Crush for the TurboGrafx-16. It's really spooky looking, but beyond that, it's just an excellent pinball game. There's only one table, so to speak, but it branches out in a ton of cool and interesting ways. At 40% off, $12 is a great price for a great pinball game. The Skelly Celeste Stramium Immortally collection is back on sale, this time at 70% off for just $5.99, so you're basically paying $3 per game. Both of them are based on spooky hells/demons/other Halloweeny things, with Skelly Celeste a twin-stick hack-and-slash that includes procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements! And Stranium Immortally is a similar title that takes the gameplay of a side-scrolling shmup and turns it into a Metroidvania, complete with procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements. And finally this week, a well-beloved indie that should at least be tried by everyone is Crypt of the Necrodancer. This odd dungeon-crawling rhythm game features everything you love about RPGs and rhythm games, smashes them together alongside an awesome soundtrack, and is currently 80% off for $3.99. What are you picking up? Going for the Nindie Nation bundle of whatever, or checking out the Halloweenies? Let me know in the comments or on Twitter at Nindie Nation. Now, the last couple of weeks, I asked you for some of your favorite Spooky Nindies, and you answered in droves, so thanks for that. Bender Rocks provided a few examples, many of which are also on my backlog. Sundered, Slain, and Valfaris, all great spooky environment games. Butcher is definitely right up the alley of slasher films, just like Garage. Wow, remember that game? And how can we forget Carry On, the recently released indie where you play as the science experiment gone wrong, which subsequently breaks out of the research lab and kills everyone in its path. Definitely a horror theme from a different angle. D-Tron 2021 provided a couple of out-of-the-box spooky games that I can totally get behind. Battle Princess Madeline, recommended already this week, is a great pick for its overall ghosts and goblins-like atmosphere alone, and I love the comment about the fall-colored changes in Super Mario World after you collect all of the exits. That's a totally good pick on that little indie game, Super Mario World. I also appreciated feedback from Dest-O confirming that the first remothered game was a good, scary, psychological thriller. The new entry we covered a couple of weeks back looked really good. D-Mortal offered a great pick with Masm, Jekyll and Hyde, an interactive visual novel based on one of the original pieces of horror literature. And finally, James Pilcher with Darkest Dungeon and Hard West, both excellent picks. If you're like me and want a top-notch Nindy but prefer the spooky vibes over the entire game being horrifying, Darkest Dungeon can do no wrong. Man, that game is good. Great picks all around, everyone, and I loved seeing the little conversations that happened in the YouTube comments, with people chiming in when they've also liked one of those games, or some back and forth figuring out if a game is right for them. I love seeing everyone mingle in the comments. If you have any feedback or just want to chat about these or any Nindies, there's already a group of people chatting in the YouTube comments, and I'm always carrying on over on Twitter at Nindie Nation. I think that wraps it up for the week. 10 neglected Nindies, 29 new releases, and 11 deals? That means we covered 50 games in about half an hour, without even going into your spooky suggestions. Wow. If you want to see more of what we do, go check out the YouTube channel for new episodes every Tuesday and Friday with the afternoon special, and stop by on Thursdays at 10 p.m. Eastern for Nindies at Night. For everything else Nintendo related, go check out our friends at the Nintendo Village who host the audio portion of this show. They've got daily articles, reviews, features, and other weekly shows I'm sure you'll love, all in one place at thenintendovillage.com. I swear, y'all are so kind. Oh, was that a y'all? Did I ever mention I grew up in Texas? That's right, Lone Star State, born and raised. Every week, I'm asked about various new ventures, whether it's a Patreon, merch, anything like that. And while it is flattering, Nindie Nation will always be a hobby for me and not a business venture. If you want to help, the biggest thing you can do is like the video, subscribe if you haven't, and share us with your friends. Next week, we've got another new release in the My Universe series. We'll see how that one pans out. An anime dating game with a name I'm not sure I can even read on the show, and a game that I think is about a fork. Indies, am I right? But that's all for next week, citizens, and we're all done here. I hope to see you on Thursday for Nindies at Night, and back here again on Friday. Until then, I'm Jeff. Have a safe and happy Halloween, and remember, no matter what kind of game you're looking for, whether it's running around with a pumpkin on your head, or hiding in a closet from maniacal demons, spooky or not, there's a Nindy for everyone, and we'll be right here to help you find just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons synced.